my fellow comic book collectors, it's Alan the Comic Collector Geek, and this is the hottest comics of the week. We're going to start out with what I call the steal of the week, where I look at what book I think was just a steal, like just a really great price for a cool book. And this one is in that category. I think this was, I wish I had seen this. It was a Captain Marvel Adventures number 52. Now, this is a book from 1946. I've gone on about how Captain Marvel books, Captain Marvel Adventures, I should say, from the Golden Age, have been really historically undervalued and underrated. Well, this is not only underrated because it's, you know, Captain Marvel, but it's actually a key issue because it's the first appearance of Dr. Sivana Jr., his son. So just a cool book, and it's a C.C. Beck cover. It's, you know, really cool early superhero book. And at the time, in the Golden Age, Captain Marvel was huge. He was almost, in some ways, bigger than Superman. So this is a big book from the Golden Age. But how much did it sell for? Well, it was a raw copy that sold, and it sold, it was in a, what I think it was like a 2 to 2.5. It was rated as a 2, but I think it could even, it looks like it could have gone for as a 2.5, but it was a raw copy, and it sold for $30. To me, that's a steal. Anytime when you can get a Golden Age book that's a key for $30, that's a steal in my opinion. So I just thought this was a great book to see it sell for that. Well, this grade doesn't have any prior records, so it's one of those books that is not commonly graded in a 2. So I looked at a comparison for this book of a 4.5. Well, a 4.5 sold back in 2020 for $110. So this is well below, like 1/4 of the value of a 4.5, and just kind of shows that it was a very good price. So I just thought it was an interesting one. I kind of like to harp on how undervalued the Captain Marvel Adventures are. I think they're just a great bargain right now. There are 85 of these on the census, and 83 are Universal Blue Labels. Next on the list. This is an interesting one as well. Maybe a bit of a steal as well. This is Ghost Comics number 5. And this is from 1952. And it features a Maurice Whitman cover. And it's just a, you know, the Ghost series of comics, it ran for, I think, 11 issues. Were just really great. They all featured Maurice Whitman covers. It's classic pre-code horror. I consider it sort of a gateway comic series to get into pre-code horror. That and EC would be the other one. It's just a great series. It's a short series of books, so it makes it a very easy one to collect. During the COVID times, this series had really gone through the roof. It had become very hot, and had really seen records during COVID. So this was a sale for 4.0, and it was a restored copy C1, which is the amateur but very minor restoration, and it sold for $140.50. Now, there are no prior records for restored grades for this book. In this, you know, in the a restored grade at a 4.0 selling, so we don't really know what to compare it to. But a 4.5 sold back in December of 2020 for $660. So this is like 1/5 of that. There was actually a sale back in May of this year, early part of this month actually, or last month, for $300 for a 4.5 Blue Label. So this book had really gone up during COVID and crashed. And this basically was about half of what fair market value is for a Blue Label. Now, traditionally, the way you can calculate the restored value versus the blue label value is in the lower grades, especially around the 4.0, it can command about 80%. If it was even lower, it would command almost equivalent at the really low grades, because whether it's restored or not restored, it's pretty much going to be the same grade. Well, at a 4.0, you know, if the restoration's removed, it would lower the grade. So often they go for about 80% of their blue counterparts. So this is a pretty good steal, another steal of the week kind of thing. But again, it is a record at the same time. So it's a steal of the week in a way, but also a record. So we got 2 steals of the week. This is number 9 on the list. But it is a great cover. I like the multi-armed women covers, and it is a Maurice Whitman cover, which is kind of cool in itself. There are 47 of these on the census, and 45 of them are universal blue labels. It's just a cool book. I thought it was a really interesting sale. The next one is a number 8 on the list, and it's Atomic War number 1. Now this is from November of 1952. And it is a classic cover. Like, it looks like, I think it's Chicago, and it's just like obliterated by an atomic explosion. And it's just one of those classic covers. People kind of love these like end of the world, nuclear holocaust kind of covers. And this is really kind of fits that bill. Beautiful colors on it too. Just a really great cover. This book is from 1952, sort of the top, you know, the peak of the atomic age. Just a really great book. Now this was a pretty high grade copy that sold, and it was a 7.5, and it sold for $2,999. Well, there are no prior records for this grade, but just to give you a sense of how much this book has climbed, there was a 6.5 that sold for $1,560 in 2021, and an 8.5, so higher grade by a full grade, sold for the exact same price back in 2020. So $2,299 back in 2020. So this is like, you know, it's basically, you know, over the last couple of years, well, you're basically paying the same amount for a lower grade that you would for one of those higher grade ones. So really, this book has been climbing. And I think it's because a lot of collectors are gravitating to these like atomic explosion covers. There was a few that actually made some of the like Lords of the Long Box or Comic Tom lists that, you know, maybe brought new collectors to the atomic explosion phenomena. So it's a really interesting one. I thought it was a great sale. 7.5 sold for $2,299. And there was 51 of these on the census, and 46 of them are universal blue labels. Number 7 on the list is Batman number 5. Now, this is a great book. I really like this book. This is from 1941. It's a Bob Kane cover, and it is the first appearance of the Batmobile. So just an iconic car, I guess, for Batman. You know, when you think of Batman, you think of all the gadgets, but you also think about the Batmobile. And this is the first appearance of the Batmobile. This is from 1941, just a classic comic to get if you want to get that first key appearance of, you know, something that we really associate with Batman. And this was a restored book that sold. It was a 3.0, again, another C1, which is minimum restoration by amateur restoration. And it sold for $1,676. Now, there were previous records for restored grades. There was a restored that sold for $1,080 in 2020. And just to give you a sense of how that compares to the blue labels for this book generally sell for around $3,137 back in January of 2023. So this was a, you know, pretty strong sale, about half of the blue label. So a little bit lower than what my calculations would always say for those lower grade blue labels, purple labels, I should say, but still a very strong sale. Because it's gone up about 60% since 2020, so pretty strong sale. Now this book, there are 279 of these on the census, and 214 of them are restored books. So if are universal labels, I should say. So that gives you a sense that the restored labels on these, there's like about 60 out of the 279, so about 30% are restored. Gives you a sense that maybe people should start looking at these restored books, because they might be the only option that you get when you're trying to find one of these books. Just a really interesting sale. I thought it was one that I wanted to highlight. So Batman number 5. Number 6 on the list is New York World's Fair comics from 1940. This is from actually November of 1939. It is the first time we get Batman, Robin, and Superman on the cover together. And that is a significant book. It is also an early appearance of Robin. And it's the first time that Burnley did a cover art. So it's his first cover art. So, so an artist's first cover art, first appearance of Batman, Robin, and Superman together. So kind of a key book. And this had a 0.5 that sold. And it sold, and I actually was bidding on this one, but I lost, obviously. It sold for $913. Now, there was no prior records for this book in this grade, but a 2.0 had sold for $2,000 in May of 2022. So this is about half of the 2.0 sale. And if you think about that, that's actually a reasonably good price for a 0.5. And it is a record because there are no prior records for this book. But I just thought it was an interesting one. It is a key book. And it shows you that these key books, even in the lowest grades where it's incomplete, still can command big money. So there are 159 of these on the census, and 125 of those are universal blue labels. Number 5 on the list is one that I actually have in my collection, and I was excited to see this book on the list. This is Thunder number 1. Now this is from Magazine Enterprises from November of 1951. It is the first and only book where Frazetta did the cover and all the interior art. Generally, Frazetta did a lot of covers, and he did some interiors, but not both. So this was the first time that he did the entire art for a comic, and the only time he ever did that. It was also the first appearance of Thunder and all that kind of stuff. There was actually a little bit of a controversy around this book in the respect that Frazetta was upset that Magazine Enterprises changed a bit of the story element that he wanted. And so he walked away from the project when they made number 2. And it was taken over by Gil Fox. So it was Gil Fox. I'm pretty sure it was Gil Fox. I'm pretty sure it's Gil Fox. I want to maybe double check on that. But or is it Gardner Fox? It was one of the Foxes. Gardner Fox, maybe. Yeah, so it was Gardner Fox that wrote the story for this one. But just an interesting book from Magazine Enterprises. Now, this was a 4.5 that sold, and it was for $1,620. Now, there was a prior record for this book set back in March of this year for $1,560. So it's gone up a little bit from the prior record, but it really shows that this book has, consistently commanded big money for it. I think my copy is a similar grade, and I think I paid like $400 for it. So it's gone up quite a bit in the time that I picked it up. So just a really great book. And there are 105 of these in Universal Blue Labels and 119 altogether. So that is Thunder number 1. The next one on our list, number 4, is Captain America Comics number 41. Now this is a 1944 timely book. It is a great cover. It's actually an interesting one because you got Bucky with a flamethrower, and there's collectors that actually go for these kind of flamethrower covers. And so you got Bucky swinging on a thing with a flamethrower in one hand and just like roasting all these Japanese. And then you got Captain America with a machine gun, which is always fun. And he's punching a Japanese soldier. Well, this is the last time that in the Captain America series where they had Japanese covers. So it's kind of the last Japanese war propaganda cover. And it was done by Alex Schomburg, which he is just known for these really great covers. So this is a classic cover by him. So this is a really big book for the Golden Age collectors who like these pre-code books that are World War II books and propaganda covers. So this one was a high grade actually for the Golden Age. I have to always qualify that, but it was a 6.5 and it sold for $3,916. So $3,916. Now the prior record for this book was set back in 2012 for $1,685. So it's gone up double in that time period, which is, you know, a reasonable rate of return. Now there are 58 of these on the census and 50 are Universal Blue Labels. So this was just a really high grade to, you know, you don't really see these higher grade books that often, and just to see it come up was pretty big. So very big sale for this book. So number 3 on the list is really one that I was actually shocked by this one, because I think in a prior video I was talking about how I thought EC books were a little bit overpriced. Well, this kind of falls into that a bit. This was Vault of Horror number 14. Now this is the EC Comics from 1940. It is a Johnny Craig cover, and it's a voodoo cover. So people collect these voodoo covers, like the voodoo dolls and stuff like that. They, you know, it's kind of a classic pre-code horror trope to have the voodoo doll where, you know, you can cause pain on other people. So, and it has like a lot of really great artists involved with this book, particular book. It had interiors by also Johnny Craig, but Wally Wood, Graham Ingalls, and Al Felstein. So just some great artists were involved with the creation of this book. Well, this was another raw sale, and it was a good raw. So it's like a 2.0 sale. And it sold for $420. That is a really strong sale for this book. The prior record to this book was set back in January of this year, so just a few months ago, and it was a graded 2.0. So you know that it's complete, you know it's not restored. You got a 2.0, and this is compared to a raw. So how much did the January sale go for? Well, it went for $150. So this is almost 3 times, about 3 times what the January sale for a graded copy was. So that's a pretty major sale. I was just kind of surprised that it had gone for so much. This was a heritage auction sale as well. Sometimes you find that heritage auctions can be hit or miss, where you can see books go for a little bit more than what you can get them elsewhere. And this is one of the cases where it kind of went for a bit more than I would have expected. This was, there's 67 of these on the census, and 57 of them are Universal Blue Labels. So just an interesting sale. I was surprised that it had gone for so much, especially for a raw copy. Number 2 on the list is Detective Comics number 62. This is from April of 1942. it is a classic Joker cover. You got Joker, and he's holding a whole bunch of balloons with Joker faces on them. So just a classic Joker cover. It is a Jerry Robinson cover. And it's just, people like their Joker covers. And this is also has an interior Joker story. So, people collect Joker, obviously. And this was a 4.0 that came up for sale. And it sold for $5,100. Just a huge sale for this book. And just to give you a sense of how big of a sale this was, back in 2014, if you looked at this book's trajectory, it was flat. It was just like, if you go back to the beginning of the census to 2014, it was just a flat, very little growth on this book. Well, in 2014 till now, it has just been on this steady incline, just a huge incline. So it sold for, in 2014, you could buy it for about $700. Well, now the prior record was set back in June of 2021 for $4,060. Now this has gone up another $500 since then. So just incredible growth for this book. Just a great return on this one. And I'm not sure why there's been this trajectory for this book within the last 9 years, but for some reason this book has become pretty hot over the last 9 years, and it's really gone up. Just really, like, it's interesting. You can see that if you look at the census, it goes like this, and then boop, and it's just like that all the way to the moon, basically. I just thought it was really interesting. This has 100 copies on the census, and 87 of them are Universal Blue Labels. Okay, so number 1 on the list is another book I just happened to have, and I was super excited when I got this copy. This is Spirit number 22. Now, this is from Quality Comics from 1950, and it is a Will Eisner cover, and it's considered to be one of the grails for femme fatales. It is a classic femme fatale cover. You got the sexy girl, and she's putting the dagger in her, or maybe she's taking it out or putting it in her garter. We're not sure. but it's that very sexy femme fatale cover. And it is probably the best, I would say, femme fatale cover of the Golden Age. Maybe even of any ages. But just, it's a classic cover. This book had a massive sale. Massive. That's why it's number 1. It had a massive sale. It was a 2.5 that sold, and it sold on Comic Connect, I believe, or Comic Link. And it sold for $4,800. $4,800. That is huge for this book, because the prior record for this book was set back in September of 2021, so just a year or two ago, and it was for $1,900. So almost 2.5 times what it previously, actually it was 2.5 times more than what it sold for just a year and a half ago. So really big sale. This is a pretty massive sale for this book, and just shows you the strength of the Golden Age, that people are trying to pick up those major grails for the Golden Age. One of the things that I've seen, and I'd like to hear people's feedback about this, is what I've noticed is people are selling sort of the minor grails or minor keys within the Golden Age, like sort of the books that are kind of well known, but not necessarily the big books. And what I've noticed is people are using that money to go after some bigger book. And that may be the case with this one, that people really are jumping onto those bigger books, and those bigger books from the Golden Age are commanding big money. This was definitely one of those bigger books that people want, because it's one that if you have it, you can say, well, I have the femme fatale book. And that's what this is. So it's just an interesting book for the, just a really big sale. There are 101 of these on the census, and 91 of them are universal blue labels. So just a huge book. One of the, if you're a Will Eisner fan, this is probably one of his most famous or most sought after books. Just a really great sale. So that was the top 10 hottest books for the week. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you like this series, please tell me in the comments below and share it out to other people so that they can enjoy the series. I want to, promote this. And also, thanks for watching.